someone like me to stand up in front of so many people. Cameras and light. I want to thank you all for the honor of this award. My daughter knows we drove up together from Virginia Beach. I'm still in shock as to how I even got on the list of considerations, so thank you. For anyone who's sworn the oath of public service, there's really no greater compliment than to be called a patriot. So I thank you again. And I want to express my gratitude, not just for myself, but on behalf of all my colleagues in the intelligence community, and particularly at the Central Intelligence Agency, and in particular, the sisterhood, the CIA sisterhood, that is. You see us, and that means a lot, especially because we are used to being decidedly unseen. At CIA, we honor the same oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States as our sisters and brothers in the military, but we are different. Those differences aren't always pretty. Point of fact, we lie, cheat, steal, kill, manipulate, and sometimes go down even darker paths than all of that to fulfill the missions asked of us. Spies are some of the most glorified and at the same time vilified characters in our history. On the one hand, we're expected to be superhuman and ultra cool like James Bond. On the other hand, we're condemned for being inhumane. We are typically the fall guy, the scapegoat when things go wrong, and we're never really able to defend ourselves because we're not allowed to divulge the truth. Spies are commonly depicted as smooth, aloof, cool, emotionally inaccessible, or even hollow. But that's all merely a mask. It's our cover. It's how we get the job done. It's what we hide behind. The veneer we put on to stay focused in the midst of one crisis after another. The problem with this mask is, unlike a superhero costume, we don't get to take it off at the end of the day or the end of the mission. You live in it. You breathe in it. You sleep in it. You eat in it. You spend your holidays in it. You become the mask, and the mask becomes you. At CIA, most everyone is called to this sacrifice, that of giving up the person you might otherwise have become. It's different than giving up your life, because you have to live with it, and so do all the people you care about. For 34 years, I contributed to the mission of countering terrorism. Much of that time, I was what we call a targeter, relying on vast amounts of data to hunt down the bad guy. That was my job. I may not look it standing here in this dress, the mother of 5 and the grandmother of 2, but I was a ruthless hunter and protector for the United States of America. Women make excellent hunters. We also are very effective spies.
We are.
In fact, this is the topic at the heart of my third book, which is a fiction, first fiction. I wanted to bring to life the woman who we consider the mother of American intelligence, a spy during the Revolutionary War whose identity remains unknown to us, because she never revealed her secret and she never gave up her mission. In my book, she meets a modern-day spy, a counterintelligence officer that I have fashioned after a very dear friend of mine who was killed by an Al-Qaeda suicide bomber. It was my way of bringing both of them back to life. Together, they saved the country both in 1780 and 2025. time travel there. The title of my book, If Two of Them Are Dead, comes from a Benjamin Franklin quote. Benjamin Franklin served on the Secret Correspondence Committee, which supported the early American spy network during the Revolutionary War. But apparently, good old Ben didn't think much of their skills, because he is credited with having said, 3 may keep a secret if 2 of them are dead. Franklin's quote spoke to me because it was obvious he had never met a female spy. You see, the woman I wrote about, she was able to keep her secret, and we should all be grateful for it. She is credited with having informed George Washington of General Benedict Arnold's plan to not only turn traitor himself, but also to hand over West Point to the British. He had just taken command, and most of this room I know knows that West Point was a very important strategic location for the defense of New York and North, as well as being the Continental Army's armory. So who knows? If she had not succeeded, we might be living in the British States of America. If it weren't for Mary Smith Lockwood sharing her outrage when the Sons of the American Revolution decided to exclude women from the organization, or for William Osborne MacDonald's willingness to step out of the comfort of social norms to help the daughters of the American Revolution, none of us would be here tonight. Stepping out of the comfort zone. I do that a lot. I have 5 children. Did you mention that? Much more significantly than our not being here, nearly 200,000 members worldwide would not be providing millions of dollars and millions of service hours in educational support and scholarships, promoting civics, preserving our history and libraries, sending care packages to our troops, assisting veterans, and many other services. If it weren't for the advocacy of Edgar Shannon, the president of the University of Virginia in the 1960s, who worked for years to set the stage for women and people of color to be considered for admittance, I would not have received my bachelor's degree in foreign affairs and economics, and by the way, a minor in religion. Not much of an overachiever. All of which enabled me to pen the earliest warnings of the emergence of the global jihadist movement and of bin Laden. To be part of a team that thwarted dozens of terrorist attacks that you will never know about because they didn't happen. If it weren't for the courage of so many people willing to speak truth to power, the CIA motto, willing to risk their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor, to say that excluding women, exclusion in general, in a democracy is wrong. So many countless contributions to America's security would have been lost had it not been for those brave people. I am powerfully aware of the fact that the person who stood here accepting this award last year was relieved of her command. It makes me wonder, what will be my fate? I'm retired, so I can't be fired from a job I'm not doing anymore. But I do wonder, because if speaking out on behalf of diversity, equity, and inclusion has become anti-constitutional, unpatriotic, and un-American, then I'm in big trouble. I don't know how it became illegal. I don't know how it became illegal or immoral to to celebrate the courageous work of individuals who not only served in America's national security missions, but who had to break through social stigma and systemic barriers that excluded them in order to do so. And by the way, on behalf and to the benefit of every single one of us. When I joined the National Security Mission, I was surprised about what I learned in terms of our default understanding of national security. Don't get me wrong, I'm a Navy brat. My father was a veteran of the Korean War. I was born in a naval hospital. I grew up in the water. I have salt water in my veins. But I didn't quite understand the way America defined national security or conceptualized it. I knew a strong military was absolutely critical to our defense. Then I realized, especially after I became a mother, that if our national security, government law, and every other sector in the public sphere had emerged directly from prehistoric hunter-gatherer times, it wouldn't be surprising at all to see men and women side by side in both public sector industries and caretaking at home. Why? We never studied this, but the agrarian revolution some 15,000 years ago that enabled us to move from nomadic to settled societies inadvertently created two separate spheres of activity, the public sphere and the domicile. But understand that the roles and contributions to the well-being, the safety, the security, and the survival of the human race remained equally dispersed across those two locations. Even though what would become recorded in written history focused only on the activities and experience of people in the public sphere, our understanding today, because of that, our understanding today of what security is, and pretty much every other topic, is informed at best by 50% of actual human knowledge and experience. And we have wrongly assumed that the responsibilities, the contributions, and the actions taking place in the domiciles, in the homes, in the private sphere, are not relevant to the public. So here's what we've missed. National security has a lot to learn from the private sphere, and specifically from girls, women, and children whose principal domain is that domicile. Girls know that security and safety are not the same thing. Security isn't merely an absence of threat or fear. No girl experiences a life without fear. Girls learn to be vigilant in the face of persistent threats. They never feel safe. Because of that, they don't conceptualize their security as stemming only from safety. And it's not as if girls expect to live in a world where they can fend off every physical threat. So if they linked their security to a day when they were universally capable of exerting overwhelming and decisive force against those that threaten them, they'd never be secure waiting for that day. Those of us in the private space have had to build our security around something else, from something very powerful on the inside that no one on the outside can touch. It's the strength of knowing that you and you alone choose who you are, what you think, feel, and believe. I am the master of my brain, my heart, and my soul. No one else. True security comes from within. For far too long, America has linked its national security to an absence of threats to the United States. But if our national security and the defense of our sovereignty were all it took, but if our national safety and the defense of our sovereignty were all it took to be secure, then what difference would it make if we lived in an Islamic caliphate, a communist nation, or a dictatorship? It matters. What's on the inside matters. What we feel, think, and want as a citizenry matters. It's obvious but so easily overlooked. National security isn't the automatic byproduct of national defense and safety. It has to be built brick by powerful brick in order to be resilient to threats, foreign and domestic. Our security comes from our right, as we the people, to choose the form of government we want and trust. Our security comes from our having the means to decide whether the laws are just. It comes from deciding that every citizen has the right to worship in their own way and according to their own faith. Our security is in the legal right of each citizen to seek the work they believe best suited for them, not assigned to them, like the communists did. In other words, America's national security rests entirely in the hands of the American people, not in the absence of foreign threats to us. Our security comes from the durability of the Constitution, the institution and ideals of democracy, and most importantly, the enduring nature of the aspirations in the preamble. And only Americans can ensure that durability. Just as a mother knows, she can't go with her child into adulthood and stop every broken bone, every heartache, every disappointment, every disease. You have to have passed on the ability for your children to know who they are, to have faith in themselves, and to stand up in the world without you. We the people calls on each of us to establish justice, and not for some, but for all. It calls on us to ensure domestic tranquility, not spur domestic divisiveness, to provide for the common defense, not punish political prisoners or enemies, to promote the general welfare, not line the pockets of the rich and ignore the needs of the poor, and to secure the blessings of liberty, not just for ourselves, but for future generations who don't have a say today, but whose ability to enjoy liberty in the future will depend on the decisions made now. Our nation's security requires our willingness to prioritize our shared loyalty to the Constitution over our different interpretations of it. In my mind, to be a patriot isn't just sacrificing your life for America or being willing to, but rather it comes from swallowing your pride, ego, and personal ambitions in order to live your life in the manner that the Constitution asks of you. I want to thank you for indulging me in sharing my truth to this power in the room, to the power of the moment. I know it's not what everyone wants to hear. I've had plenty of presidents mad at me too. Former director of CIA, George Tenet, made it very clear you shouldn't use a swear word when you're talking to the president. He liked it. I wanted to share my truth as a patriot, as a mother, staring as I have been at my daughter in the audience. And I wanted to thank you all again. I don't know how you found me. Still not sure why you did. But as I said, on behalf of every CIA officer, every person in the intelligence field, and especially those of us who had to work extra hard to even get there, thank you for seeing that, for seeing our sacrifice, and for understanding we did it willingly. We do it willingly because we believe we believe in the Constitution, and we believe in